create a learned helplessness or a overload. How do you see all that mixing together?
Decentralization of power is the key. Always was, always will be. People begin to opt out of the system in every way possible along every front. Now, people can't do this all at once in every aspect, but they can begin to do it. And people are doing it. In other words, you live without the need of having the government and major mega corporations be your kings and queens. Communities, people helping each other, people growing their own food, people taking care of their own health, people beginning to take back their own power and responsibility over their lives. And this is a message that, I mean, this is not the first announcement of this. People have been doing this now for decades, which is why the government is terrified of this. Because they understand this is the key linchpin that can come loose in their system of control. If people just say, well, you know, you guys are completely insane. I can see it. A lot of my friends can see it. In fact, thousands of people that I know online are looking at it all the time. And we're decentralizing. I mean, there are now probably over 100 private currencies in the United States. I know of several myself. They're completely legitimate, in fact. And they bring people into a completely different relationship with each other by actually producing and inventing their own.
And that's why the system is panicking. Now, what about the issue of the fact that the globalists are now trying to psychologically inoculate us because they know that we've already exposed their eugenics plan? I believe that's the main reason they're throwing it all in our face, going, yeah, we're putting stuff in the water, but it's good to die for the earth. Yeah, we're doing that to screw up your DNA. You're a bad human. I mean, they didn't want to come out with this now. I don't believe, I clearly know that they're trying to titrate the dose of this poison because they understand that if we continue to wake people up at this rate, there's going to be a more and more of a giant opt-out of their system. And as you know, John, it's people don't have to fix the world by themselves like Atlas holding it up. It's police officers quietly not doing unconstitutional things. It's parents not fighting with each other, realizing the system tries to condition them to do it. It's turning off and killing your television or locking it up in the cupboard. It's growing an organic garden. It's thinking about things. I mean, the power of humanity is so great if we just start the wheels turning, and we've shown people how to do that. And as the globalist curses, of degradation and stench unfold, as the fruits of the psycho New World Order unfold, we're going to be like selling snow cones in hell, brother. Do you see where I'm getting at that?
Oh, yeah, believe me. I see it very well. Just look at it this way. Your listeners, people that have been on my website for years, understand the titanic effort of essentially mind control that has been launched along so many lines by the controllers to try to bring people into line. And what does that tell you? If it takes that much titanic effort along so many lines, then we must be dealing with human beings that have a resilience that goes beyond what ordinarily people consider possible. That's right. The strength. That is the strength. And that is what is making them terrified. That's
why they tell us we're scum and ugly and bad and destructive, because they know our minds design silicon chips and jet aircraft and Mona Lisa paintings and the wheel and fire and art, and that we are an amazing species made in the image of God. And they hate that because the globalists want to be God, and they've got to turn us into scum animals so they can play the part of God, when the truth is they're a malfunctioning form of human who are like cancer, endangering the entire species.
You're putting your finger right on this thing, and you can see it playing out in propaganda news outlets, in culture, in media over the last 20, 25 years, tremendously accelerating. We're all ugly. We're all debilitated. We don't really have any right to do anything or say anything because the planet has to be saved. We're expendable. We don't have any place here. We're not really a part of all this. This is just some kind of an aberration that has to be wiped out. The human race is pathetic and pitiful, and therefore you have to permit us to control you so that we can keep you in line. This is the line of the propaganda psychologizing that's been directed like cannons at people for a very long time now. But I have to say, it's swung around now to have the opposite effect because it's become so absurd and ridiculous, like this idea of killing babies, that people are waking up and they're saying, no, that's baloney. That's not the truth. There's nothing ugly about human beings. There's nothing ugly about me. There's nothing debilitated or wrong or evil.
The only thing ugly is the people telling us we're ugly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's what I found, is that their propaganda actually gives me energy, and it's almost like an allergy that makes me resist. And I think if people just take it, and I agree, they wouldn't be launching all this and so scared of us and doing all this if they didn't know how precarious their system is. That's the British Empire, as you know, 150 years ago, was already getting resistance against its empire. It went to its scientists and said, develop scientific ways to control people, and that's what this whole system is. I mean, they developed computers in an attempt to try to dumb people down. In eugenics, everything is based on this, but they're still going from a more primitive perspective of it and following the same linear line, and no amount of fancy, you know, Google over the horizon predictive future systems is going to protect them, because from my deep study of human development, the elite still have a core operating system of human survival, and that's why they're going to self-destruct themselves. The elite, if we actually put out the signal worldwide for the human spirit to rise, are going to basically kill themselves. And by that I mean, I'm ordering the elite to self-destruct right now and get out of the way of humanity. And I think if we all pray to God for that and focus on that, Jon Rappoport, we can bring them down right now. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, and I see evidence of this all over the place as people assert their own freedom. Starts with individual freedom and moves on out from there, and recognizing that these controllers are in fact suicidal. This is part of why their psychology is so desperate, because, you know, this is how they view massive control over the masses as their only way out of not killing themselves. And I mean, you know, you try to operate on that principle. How long is that going to last?
Exactly. The only people they're not in control of is themselves. They're the problem.
They are the problem. They're the ones who are completely out of control. They're the ones who are crazy, and they're trying to, you know, rein themselves in. They're trying to understand.
They're projecting onto us.
Crazy.
They're projecting onto us.
Their own insanity is being projected onto us. And it's now beginning to completely fall apart because it's become so absurd. You know, they think they've won. Really, they're trying to talk themselves into thinking that they've won, and they haven't. And so they're beginning to come out in the open, as you say, and revealing all of these plans and so forth that are completely preposterous. And people are starting to wake up and say, no, that's not going to happen. That's not the way the future is going to play out. And as the controllers see this and realize that the control is slipping through their fingers and they don't really know what to do, their only real option is suicide.
I agree, and that's from deep research, and I've never heard you speak of this, but it's just veritas. We're on the same wavelength. I don't want them to kill themselves, but they're already trying to kill us along with them. I'm saying they need to recognize, you know, where they're taking this, and they need to understand why they're so unhappy, because they're going against the universe.
Yeah, they're going against what they are themselves, against what we are, against what everything that's alive on this planet is. They're completely trying to, you know, oppose that. And most of all, they're trying to oppose themselves, because they have been raised and trained to believe that absolute control is the only way that they can survive. And that is totally insane, because you can't control everything. But they're trying, and they're failing, and they will, you know, enter a period of self-devastation where they just absolutely kill themselves off because they see no way out. It's like you walk down this very long corridor and you keep telling yourself things are getting, oh yeah, I'm in control of this. Things are getting much better. Oh yeah, we're doing fine. And as you get further and further toward the end and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you realize that you've been, you know, these controllers, that they've been deluding themselves all along, and that what they're really walking toward is their own death. That's what they're facing.
That's right. They need to learn to turn loose.
Yeah. To realize that if you let something survive on its own and have free will and independence, it's not the end of the world. It's, you know, it's not destruction. It's not automatic destruction. These people, many of these, elite controllers, and, we've talked about what various groups they belong to and so forth, have been raised and trained in mind control to believe that everybody else on Earth is a machine or a lower order animal that threatens their survival. That's their brainwashing, and it's not working.
Jon Rappoport, I've never heard such veritas. This is deep truths. That's why it's ringing with all of you as truth. John, I already told you this last week, but I'd like to invite you someday next week or after that to host the whole show because I really want to hear what you have to say. Our guest is Jon Rappoport, NoMoreFakeNews.com. My sites are Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.tv. The danger for those of us that are really deeply awake and who have faced the horror of the globalists, but also the incredible power of humanity, is that we tend to get what I call, or what they called in World War II, target psychosis. You get so close to it that you stop even caring. I mean, the extreme of not caring how you look or how you're dressing or what people think about you. And I tend to not plug sponsors, promote books, videos, any of it. We are funded by you. So think about it at Infowars.com, the books, the videos, the T-shirts, our sponsors, all of it. And also get over there and support what Jon Rappoport's doing. And I'll just have to go to calls tomorrow. I got to some today. I can feel it's all coming down to a crossroads. It's coming to a head. I can see it intellectually. People better do whatever they can now and make hay while the sun shines, because the globalists are going to pull out every stop in their attempt to keep humanity under their control and set up this mad scientist system. I look at the art that the globalists are always into. Very, very dark stuff. Very, very disgusting stuff. And, I just know if we offer the alternative to that darkness, we're going to win. We got about 3 or 4 minutes. Closing comments on that front, Jon Rappoport.
I completely agree, Alex. And people know this. When you see something fabulous, fantastic, uplifting, enormous in its impact, you're alive. You're free. All this just happens spontaneously. You don't even have to think about it. And you realize what your life could be, what your future could be, and what everybody's life could be. And when you then go back and you start looking at all this insane propaganda that's being leveled at people to try to make them believe that they're worthless and ugly and of no account, and et cetera, and you have to be little sheep in our herd, that we control you, otherwise you're dangerous, all of this nonsense looks the height of absurdity and insanity. You got to stay alive to that realization and go with it, and not just fall back, and sink down and say, well, I just had a momentary illumination, but it doesn't really matter. No, that's what matters. That's the thing that really matters. All of the other insanity and absurdity is just an attempt to paint an illusion of the world the way it isn't. And to have you buy that illusion. And you don't have to buy it, and you don't have to buy it. None of us have to.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think, we only got a minute and a half left, why do you think we're still alive?
Well, I think we're still alive, and a lot of other people are still alive, because underneath all of this madness and crime is the hope of everybody on the planet that we work this out and live the life that we can really live. I've talked to some people who were former insiders. I can't go into details, we don't have enough time. But they basically said to me, listen, when we talk to you, we feel better. We feel better because you're not looking at things the way we're looking at it. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we need to wake up, And I think that's... No,
I've been told the exact same thing. Can you imagine how alluring those of us that love liberty are compared to those that are turned over to darkness? We have the power of billions of people that don't have a voice shining through us. And when you become a leader, folks, all the good people's power begins to flow through you. Is that what you're saying?
And vice versa. I mean, it's an exchange.
Yes.
It's an exchange. So everybody begins to say, yeah, I'm waking up. Freedom is the fundamental thing. Power. Individual power used for the good, not to interfere with anybody else's freedom. Imagination, creativity.
Real individual power is sharing power with others and lifting others up. It's incredible. Amazing, Jon. Thank you so much.